Hello and welcome. We'll be looking at the basic stitches and techniques for the Ice Queen Cowl is made using Tunisian crochet, in particular Tunisian crochet in the round, using only single-ended hook as opposed to double-ended hook with an extension. So the comparison to this method to other colorwork method is that you won't have any loose floats at the end. So as you can see, this is the snowflake pattern, but when you look at the wrong side of the project, you see that there are no loose floats, no color changes. So this is achieved by working of the forward pass and return pass in different colors, and then using the different stitches, in particular Tunisian Knit Stitch and Tunisian Reverse Stitch, to bring the color of the return pass forward, and this creates the color effect. The best effect using this technique is achieved when you use two similar colors, although this is not always the rule, but it tends to give you the best results using similar colors. So as you can see here, I used two different shades of blue. So for this project I used blue surf, Malabrigo blue surf, and then Malabrigo cyan. So this is a lace weight yarn that I used, that I doubled up for this project. So the skein comes as a single strand. So when I wound this into cakes, I did it together, so I doubled up the strands. So throughout the project you will be holding two strands of the same color together, and we will use 5mm Tunisian crochet hook. So for this project I'm using Knit Pro Symphony, which I like because it has got a pointy tip and it also looks very pretty. Which find the full pattern on my blog with the YouTube tutorial that we are just working on, and then you can find the PDF versions in my Lovecrafts and in my Ravelry shop. So if you'd like to support my work, you can get the printable PDF there. The pattern includes stitch charts for the snowflake motif and detailed explanation of the stitches and techniques. So as I mentioned, we will use Tunisian knit and reverse stitches for the colorwork section, and then you have a ribbing on the bottom and on the top, which is a simple ribbing of one Tunisian purl followed by Tunisian knit stitch. So without further ado, let's dive in. The project is work from the bottom up, so we will start with the ribbing first. We will use the blue surf first. So you start the project as you would normally start with the chains. So the basic pattern, which is on the block, has got chain 120. For this demonstration I'm going to be working on a smaller version of the pattern, so I will only chain 72. So we will start with a slip knot, you then place the hook inside of the loop that you created, and you chain by yarning over or yarning around the hook and pulling through. So that's chain 1, yarn over, pull through, chain 2, yarn over, pull through, 3, and so on. So I'm going to chain my multiple of 72, and I'll meet you when we're going to join the chains in the round. I've done my multiple, so I've got 72. Just to mention, if you'd like to adjust the size of your cowl, you do it by recalculating through the number of stitches through the gauge, but the basic stitch pattern for this cowl is a multiple of 24, so you will be adding or subtracting a 24 stitches from the basic count. Okay, so now we need to make sure that we are not going to twist our chains because we are going to join in the round. So you just need to run your fingers through the chain to make sure that it's not twisted. Okay, I think I'm okay. So I'm now going to insert the hook into the very first chain and pull it. So now we've joined the chains in the round. We've got one loop on the hook, and this corresponds to the first stitch. So this would correspond to the very first chain we made at the beginning, the chain 1. So what we are going to do now, we are going to insert the hook into the back bump of the next chain. We are not going to change color just yet because the ribbing is done in the same color, so we can keep on working with the blue surf or the color A. So yarn over and pull up a loop, and we will work this into each chain. So into each chain of the starting chain, we will work into the back bump, yarn over and pull up a loop, and you will work all the way around until you get to the end. And then I will show you a little trick how to work the Tunisian crochet in the round only using this single-ended hook. So keep on working into each chain, into the back bump. You insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop. So you will basically work, you're currently working the stitches of the first row, and I'll meet you once you get to the very last stitch of the round. So what I was going to just interject here while we are working into the back bumps of this row is this really works well for those sets with the shorter hooks. Even though I've got my Knit Pro here and I really like it for this project, you can see that as I'm working the stitches, I need to kind of space them out a little bit. There are some Tunisian crochet hooks which are much shorter, and this really works well for this, because what we are trying to achieve is, as we will be closing up the round, we will need to bring these two together. So it's good for you to work on a slightly longer cable than you would work normally, because you need to have that flexibility of the cable, and this works really well with longer cables. So the first row is a little bit tricky, but once you get past this stage and you will have a few rows on your hook, it will get much easier. So just for you to see, as you are working into back bumps of your stitches here, after every couple of stitches, I'll just space them out a little bit, add them to the flexible part of the hook, to the cable, and this basically helps me to bring the stitches closer together like so. Okay, so now we've got all our stitches on the cable. So now we're going to work return pass, and this is where the magic happens with the single-ended hook. So we need to locate the first two stitches. Okay, so the first two stitches are here, 1 and 2. So we need to position the yarn at the back of the work, and you need to enclose this loop and try to hold it kind of together so the stitches are not stretched out, because the more tension there is in the stitches, the more difficult it will be to work into these two. So this is what we are going to do now. We are going to insert the tip of the hook between the front and back bars of the first stitch, like so, and between the front and back bars of the second stitch. Okay, so because we are working ribbing is worked in the same color for forward and return pass, we are keeping this yarn in there, but for the colorwork section we will be changing the color. So for the ribbing, you've got the first two stitches on the hook between the front and back vertical bars. You will yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, and you need to be careful because when you work all the way around at the end of the return pass, and then you start working the following row, because we worked into these stitches and we effectively made a decrease, the second stitch will tend to hide, but we need to work into it as a single stitch, so we will always need to be careful not to miss the second stitch. So now we are just going to continue with yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So this would be the standard return pass, and we are working our stitches off like so. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. So the first few stitches might be a bit tricky, but once you get the hang of it, it will be much easier. So again, yarn over, pull through 2 all the way around until you have 1 loop left on your hook, and I'll meet you back for row number 2. Back to row number 2. So I'm back. I've got only 1 loop left on the hook, and I've got this nice circle of foundation row using the single-ended hook. So the ribbing pattern is Tunisian purl followed by Tunisian knit stitches. Because this first stitch is an edge stitch, which would normally count as a purl, we will start the stitch pattern with working 2 Tunisian knit stitches. So we start with 2 Tunisian knit stitches. Don't forget, this first stitch that we are going to be worked into is the stitch number 2 for the row, and because it was done as a decrease, we just need to make sure that we are not going to skip it. So we will work Tunisian knit here. Tunisian knit stitch is worked between the front and back vertical bar. You're going to go in between these, yarn over and pull up a loop. And now this is followed by Tunisian purl. So we bring the yarn forward, insert the hook from right to left under the front vertical bar, yarn around the hook and pull up a loop. And this creates a little bump at the front. So that was Tunisian purl followed by 2 Tunisian knit stitches, purl again. So we bring the yarn forward, insert the hook from right to left, yarn over and pull up a loop. Okay, because we are working with 2 strands at the same time, we just need to make sure that we treat both of the strands as 1 strand. So just a little bit of attention, paying attention to not to insert the hook between the strands that are held together, but between the actual 2 bars of the stitch. So we work 2 Tunisian knit stitches, Tunisian purl, and so on all the way around. So I'll meet you at the end when we are going to be working return pass for row number 2, just to demonstrate the technique once more. And after that, after row 2, you will work rounds. After that, you will work rounds 3 to 5, and this will be the repetition of round number 2. So you will, for rounds 3 to 5, you will alternate 1 Tunisian purl stitch with 2 Tunisian knit stitches. Welcome back. I'm now on the last few stitches of the round number 2. So I'm going to go ahead and work 2 Tunisian knit stitches. Now we are going to work our return pass. So we are still going to go ahead and do that in color A. So we've got the first 2 stitches of the round. So we are going to go and insert the hook between the front and back vertical bars of the first and the second, yarn over, pull through 2, and then we're just going to go ahead and yarn over, pull through 2 all the way around until we get to the beginning of the round. As I mentioned, you will then work rounds 3 to 5, so this would be rounds 3, 4 and 5 in the same stitch pattern as round number 2. So this would be starting with Tunisian knit stitch in first 2 stitches, followed by stitch pattern of 1 Tunisian purl stitch followed by 2 Tunisian knit stitches all the way around, and I will meet you back on round. Welcome back. So at the moment I'm at the end of return pass of row number 6. So the forward pass of row number 6 was a repetition of row number 2. So we were alternating Tunisian purl and Tunisian knit stitches. The return pass is the standard return pass for the work in the round. Now I've got last 2 loops on the hook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my color B, which in this case is Malabrico lace in cyan. So I will place a loop on the hook and pull it through the 2 loops which were already on the hook. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to keep my color A, blue serve that I used. I'm going to keep it on the side, and what we need to remember is that we will now start from row number 7. We will start following the stitch chart, which is part of the pattern. So you will now start working the round number 1. The way the stitch chart works is it's created on a white background, and the snowflake pattern is highlighted in red. So the way we are going to work these stitches is we work the whole forward pass in cyan. However, we will be alternating Tunisian knit and Tunisian reverse stitches. So what this does is where we work Tunisian knit stitch, this will be in cyan color, and when we work Tunisian reverse stitches, this will actually bring, because we will be working into the back vertical bar of the stitches in the row below, and this will bring up the blue serve color. So it will start creating color work, even though you will be working the forward pass in one color only. So I'm going to demonstrate a few rows for you. So first let's start, rounds. Let's start with the round number 1. So first the stitch pattern guides us to work stitches from the 1st to 11th stitch in Tunisian knit stitch. So we know the first stitch is the edge stitch, so this is already on the hook. So we'll continue working 10 stitches in Tunisian knit stitch for the total of 11 loops on the hook. So that's first, that's 1, 2, even though we've got 3 loops on our hook, but we are working only 10 Tunisian knit stitches. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and 11. And now we work 1 Tunisian reverse stitch. So the way we work Tunisian reverse stitches, we are going to be working into the back vertical bars from right to left, similarly to Tunisian simple stitch, although these are worked into the front vertical bar. Tunisian reverse stitches are worked into the back vertical bar, yarn over and pull up a loop, and this will bring the color A to the front. Then we will work 12 more Tunisian knit stitches. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. Okay, and this constitutes the basic stitch pattern. Repeat for the round number 1 of the color work. You will then go back to the beginning, so this will be 11 Tunisian knit stitches, 1 Tunisian reverse stitch, and followed by 12 Tunisian knit stitches, and you will work this stitch pattern all the way around. Okay, so now we are at the end of our forward pass for round number 7, or for the first round of the color work, 7th round in the pattern total, including the ribbing. So now I'm going to show you what we are going to do for the return pass. So what we do is we will go into the first 2 stitches as previously. We yarn over, pull through 2, and then we change the color back to blue surf for yarn over and pull through 2. So even though we say that we are going to work the whole of return pass color A, but what we really mean, the first yarn over pull through 2 will be still in color B, and then from the second yarn over pull through 2 of the return pass, we will be using the blue surf or the color A. So there are some exceptions in the pattern, but this is highlighted in the pattern text on the blog or in the printable PDF. But this is just to show you the basic principle, and then you will continue working the return pass as in the previous rounds. So we will do yarn over pull through 2 all the way around. So now we are almost at the end of the return pass for this round. So now we are on the last 2 stitches or last 2 loops. We then drop color A, that is for the return pass. Now we pick up color B, yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, so we are now on round 2 of the stitch chart, and this is round 8 of the in total for the whole pattern. So you will follow the stitch chart as I explained a little while ago. I'm going to work a few more rounds and then I will show you how the stitch pattern starts forming. So just to recap, you will change the color from A to B on the return pass, and you have the last 2 loops of the return pass, so you will do the yarn over pull through 2 at the end of the return pass in color B, and you change from B to A after the first yarn over pull through 2 of the return pass, except where the pattern indicates otherwise. Welcome back. So I've made a few more rounds, so you can see the snowflake stitch pattern is starting to emerge. So you will then follow at the stitch chart up to the round number 40. And once you know how to work the stitches and how to change your colors on the forward and return pass as I demonstrated for you, it's very easy to follow the stitch chart. After the round 40, you will then go back to only working with color A, because we will be working the top ribbing, and at the end you will do stitch pattern bind off. So stitch pattern bind off is fairly simple. I like to use it when I like to maintain the stitch pattern up to the very last bind off round or row, whichever project I'm working, whether it's a flat or in a round. And it is worked as the normal stitch. So for example, if you are binding off Tunisian Knit Stitch, you will go into the stitch in the round or row below as for Tunisian Knit Stitch, but instead of keeping that loop that you create on the hook, you pull it through the loop which is already on the hook. So I'm going to show you how to do that, even though I haven't finished my mini version of the cowl. I'm just going to show you how you would bind off. So let's say the first stitch I want to bind off is here, and I want to bind it off in Tunisian knit style. I'll go into the stitch as for Tunisian Knit Stitch, but instead of keeping this loop on the hook, I would pull it through the loop which is already on the hook. And similarly for Tunisian Purl Stitch, if I want to bind off the second stitch as Tunisian Purl Stitch, go in it and pull it through. And then you will do that all the way around as per the pattern and bind off, and that's it. Then you have your Ice Queen Cowl. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I hope you find this tutorial useful, and let me know in the comments below if you've ever tried this technique and working Tunisian crochet in the round, whether you prefer to use single or double-ended hook, and whether you've ever tried this type of color work, which is working different color on forward and return pass, and then using the Tunisian reverse stitches to bring the color of the return pass forward. And as always, please share this tutorial with your friends if they like Tunisian crochet, and I will see you in next tutorial. Bye bye.